Here is what the Lord showed me about the story of the widow's oil. Here's the story. 2 Kings 4. Now a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets cried out to Elisha, "Your servant my husband is dead, and you know that your servant feared Yahweh, and the creditor has come to take my 2 children to be his slaves." And Elisha said to her, "What shall I do for you? Tell me, what do you have in the house?" And she said, "Your servant woman has nothing in the house except a jar of oil." Then he said, "Go, ask vessels for yourself from those outside, from all your neighbors, even empty vessels. Do not get a few. And you shall go in and shut the door behind you and your sons, and pour into all these vessels, and you shall set aside what is full." So she went from him and shut the door behind her and her sons. They were bringing the vessels to her, and she poured. Now it happened that when the vessels were full, she said to her son, "Bring me another vessel." And he said to her, "There is not one vessel more." And the oil stopped. Then she came and told the man of God, and he said, "Go, sell the oil and pay your debt, and you and your sons can live on the rest." The first thing that the Lord showed me about this story, this woman was the wife of one of the sons of the prophets. She was familiar with the things of the Lord and had even married into a culture overflowing with the words and work of the Spirit. But she was perishing because she lacked insight into the particular word, rhema, of the Lord, the uttered word, the declared word, the word that is spoken of the Lord over her own life. She was in a season of multiplication and did not know it. The second thing, this woman cries out to Elisha by reason of his association with her husband. She does not believe that she herself is worthy of the word of the Lord, but leans on the relationship and revelation of others. She seeks to enter into the blessing on borrowed favor, and the Lord still hears her. This favor we now all have because of Jesus, who gave his Spirit to dwell in our hearts and give us fellowship with the Father as he has fellowship with the Father. The third thing, Elisha asks her what she has in her house. Elisha is not concerned with what she does not have, money, but what is already in her hand that she can use. Elisha understands that at every moment, wherever we are, we each possess exactly what we need to do the work appointed and multiply in it according to the mercy of the Lord. The fourth thing, the widow tells Elisha she has nothing except a jar of oil. What does oil represent? Particular and personal grace and purpose over a person's life, their anointing, in the form of gifts and talents and particular skills that belong to them by faith and the Spirit of God. All the widow has is what she came into the world with. She has been stripped back to her essential self, and all that remains are the specific tools the Lord intended for her multiplication from the beginning. These gifts are the last thing standing after a season of deep trauma and loss. The fifth thing, Elisha tells her to go and bring vessels from her community. I think that's the fifth thing. I'm starting to lose track. The next thing, Elisha tells her to go and bring vessels from her community. The word of the Lord over this woman's life causes her to ask for help from those around her. What she does not have, she asks her neighbors to supply. A small matter to them, but life and death for her. What does a vessel represent? The particular and practical form by which the oil is carried, the way in which a talent or a gift expresses itself. The woman asks her neighbors to be themselves according to their own vessels, and to lend a little for her in her time of need. Godly community exists as brothers and sisters seeing by faith what the Lord has gifted each one, and celebrating and leaning on one another in those things. The next thing, the woman is obedient to the word of the Lord spoken by his prophet. This most likely did not make sense to her in the natural. What little she had, she delivered up to the word of the Lord, risking the expenditure of her very last resource by faith that the Lord would be faithful. She was prompt. She did not stop to rationalize. The next thing, Elisha told her to shut the door behind her. In the beginning of a season of multiplication, what the Lord is doing in your life rarely makes sense to others. Even your close friends and neighbors may not understand. The Lord may hide you and cause you to be obedient in isolation for a time, so that the miracle has time to manifest, and you are not exposed to slander, gossip, or faulty wisdom. The next thing, the Lord multiplies her in secret in her own house with her sons, walking in obedience in the midst of the miracle. Having stripped her back and hidden her away, he proceeds to work his will with her oil in the multitude of her borrowed vessels. The miraculous word of the Lord does its work in the secret place on the inside of us as we walk in obedience to his particular will and word, Rhema, over our lives. Last of all, the woman brings her increase immediately back to Elisha. The first thing she does after the Lord has multiplied her gifts is bring them back into submission to the Lord. There were a million urgent things she could have done with the money, but she gave it back to the Lord for direction first. There was enough for the creditors and her sons to live on, more than she had asked for. Now she is not only free from debt, but with the means to live on and keep multiplying. I have some devotional and discussion questions on my Substack, Evangeline Ministries. Please join in the conversation there. I would love to hear your thoughts.